It's just going to be this generational, intergenerational trauma passed on and passed on. So yeah, it was naive of me to think that she was going to be any different if I was going to keep repeating these patterns. And, we live in this society that is just so obsessed with staying young and being successful and being to have everything together, being productive, looking after yourself, looking after your family, still being sexy, but, not too sexy because, it can't be too sexy, especially when you're a mum. No, you can't be too sexy then. All of this unattainable expectations that are just pushed on us, and I could see that they've been pushed on me, and I was like, no, I cannot push this now onto my children and just keep it going. Then I was just faced with this decision of, okay, what can I do?
Welcome to the Wildflow podcast with me, Charlotte Pronto, certified cycle and feminine embodiment coach and shamanic womb guide. In this podcast, I'll share my wisdom and conversations with powerful change makers, thought leaders, and embodied teachers to invite you to live cyclically in flow with your menstrual cycle instead of fearing it, to heal menstrual shame and normalize womb wisdom and period positivity, and to step into your sovereign magnetic power to create and embody the change you desire to see in your world. Settle in to unleash your wild flow. Welcome back to Wildflow Podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Today I'm talking to Alisha Faye. Alisha is the Creatrix of Sacred Sync. She's a Yoni Priestess, a womb healer, rites of passage facilitator, and a women's wellbeing coach for the awakened woman. She's a first moon circle facilitator. She's also a mother, wife, sister, daughter, and friend. Through womb health education, somatic healing, embodiment and Tantra, Alisha's devoted to helping women reconnect to their yoni by softening into their sensual body, reclaiming and rebirthing the primal, wild, wise, erotic woman they are longing to be. Alisha wants to live in a world full of embodied sensual women speaking their truth, who reclaim their periods, pleasure, and their power by honoring their sacred body, syncing with their inner rhythms and the rhythms of the earth. Her mission is to create a paradigm where rites of passage are celebrated, the mothers in our communities are deeply loved and supported, and her passion is to empower all women to awaken to the wisdom of their womb space for optimal pelvic health and well-being. Alisha and I have journeyed together for a fair bit of the past year after meeting on our integrative pelvic health training, and recently Alisha has completed her training and is now a certified first moon circle facilitator. I invited Alisha to come onto the podcast to share with us the wisdom of her work and her story, which she shared with me in our first moon circle facilitator training. And I was really struck by the journey that she has been on, from teen to teenage mother to awakening woman and reclaiming her body, her sexuality, and the beautiful ways that she guides women to explore this for themselves. I really wanted to hear Alisha's take on sharing sacred sexuality education with teens, as well as what it means to her to be a Yoni priestess, and how to work with crystals and energy healing, and to really reclaim our bodies and release a lot of the shame that we hold from such a young age, when our bodies first change at puberty. So I really hope that you enjoy this episode and find much magic, wisdom, and medicine in there. And I'd love to hear what you think afterwards. If you want to come and drop some of your feedback on Instagram. Enjoy. Hi, Alisha. Welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
I am so good, actually. I'm really well. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. It's been a tender cycle so far, and I'm just finding myself moving into my autumn. And I've just had a loss in my family over the last couple of weeks, and just a lot of feeling like there's a lot of things ending and shifting and a lot of personal things coming up for to be felt and to be released. And I feel like, it's a great time of transition anyway. And at the time we're recording this, we're about a week out from the summer solstice here in the Southern Hemisphere. Just really feeling like we're reaching this, like a pivotal point where, for me, like the summer solstice brings a real moment to reflect on, how the solar year has gone so far, what wants to be changed and what's going well. And, that very outward energy with that. We've finally got sunshine down here where we've just had rain for weeks. And so just feeling like, a big feeling of review, as well as obviously coming to the end of the year. So I'm on cycle day 20 today. So I think I've just ovulated over the last few days. So yeah, the cycle's definitely going to be different to the last few, and just really kind of feeling quite tender at the minute. How about you? Where in your cycle are you, and how's that feeling for you? If you have one, I'm happy to share.
Well, first of all, sorry for your loss, witnessing you in that and supporting you and holding you.
Thank you.
Like you said, with summer solstice, it's about that outward energy, and the reflection. It's a really good time to, which is what I've been doing, look back at when it was winter solstice and see what seeds I was planting, to see if they've come to like full bloom. So it's a really nice time to do that as well.
Love that. Yeah, that's how I see it. It's gorgeous.
I'm on cycle day 10, which is my inner spring. I find my inner spring to be really upbeat, like more energized and open and inspired, which has really helped me finish a few things that I've needed to get ticked off, because it's coming to that end of year. So I've been on some training, so it's that nice close of them. I've had that energy behind me to actually get things done. Helping me finish and tie up loose ends in time for the holidays. So I've been thankful that I've been in my spring for that this week. I've had that energy to really focus, so that then I can enjoy some time off over the holidays, but also not really exerting myself too much, because I know if I exert myself too much, then the rest of my cycle is going to be quite painful. So still allowing myself to have that rest when I need it. Sure.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I love that. I love that you're really using that energy that you've got to wrap up the year, but remembering to have some space for yourself. And can I just ask you, what you said, the rest of your cycle would be quite painful if you pushed yourself too hard. Can I just segue into that for a second and just ask you, what's your experience in the past of when you've gone too hard in your spring? What does that painful experience look like and feel like?
So obviously, because when we come out of our bleed, we've had that nice inward energy, if we've allowed ourselves to rest and like we feel that rejuvenation. So I have been known then to come out and be like, go, 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 my spring, like, because I've had them aha moments in my bleed where like I've had like visions that I want to then put into play. So then it comes to spring and I'm like, go, go, go. I do all this stuff. Yes, saying yes to everything. And then by the time it comes to my inner autumn, where it's that inward, downward energy again, I'm absolutely like already exhausted. And I'm not able to close things in a nice way so that then my bleed is more enjoyable. It's more like I've really struggled to then get things tied up so that I can enjoy that rest. And then I've then got the knock-on effect of having to still maybe do things during my bleed that I wanted to get finished beforehand, but I was just too tired, So I've really, since connecting to my cycles, really getting used to, yes, I will have that burst of energy, but trying to hone it in and allow myself to still have rest when I need, so that then come my inner summer, when say I do want to say yes, yes, yes to all these things, I know, okay, I'll say yes to a few things, not everything, so that I've still got that energy to carry me through to my bleed, and I'm not just absolutely wiped out beforehand, which I've done. And sometimes I still do, because life is a lesson. And sometimes I will get excited and say yes to many things, and then during it I'm like, oh, why did I do this to myself? But I'm getting better each phase. I'm getting better.
Yeah, thank you. Such wisdom in that. I love what you shared there about, what it looks like and feels like, and also what you just said there about, you're still doing it sometimes, even though you know what the consequence is going to be, because that's it, right? I feel like, we're all human, and life changes, and you just can't predict some things, and sometimes things are exciting. But yeah, having, even if you do say yes to too many things, I love that we can have that awareness of like, well, this might mean that, in a week or two, I'm going to be feeling extra tender or extra tired or extra like overwhelmed or whatever it is for you. But at least then you can kind of forward plan and be like, right, so how can I kind of compensate and buffer that? Like if I'm saying yes to things now, like I'm going to really need some extra care at that time. And it's funny, I was just saying to my husband this morning, I was like, we've got my Nana's funeral on Christmas Eve, 10 p.m. Australian time, because it's Christmas Eve morning in the UK. And I was just like, oh my gosh, and I'm going to be so premenstrual as well come Christmas.
Yeah.
I was just saying like, I can really feel that, like I'm really tired now just from, the emotional stuff. And I've had to kind of step out of my work quite a lot to be not, to kind of balance out all of that. But I was saying, come Christmas time, I don't want everyone to think that I'm like being really moody and, kind of not in the Christmas spirit of things. But I really, I was like inviting him. I was like, please, could you kind of hold a bit of space for me and remember to have that bit of compassion. Like if I feel like I just really need a bit of space, or I'm extra sensitive or extra tender, or, whatever. And I think, like I've not had the ideal first half of my cycle at all, but just trying to have a bit of mindfulness about what I might need over the next couple of weeks. So I'm curious, where are you going to be in your cycle come Christmas?
Come Christmas, what date are we in? The 15th, so another 10 days, day 20. So I'll be premenstrual. Yeah. My cycle's around about 28 days, 26 to 28 depending. So yeah, I'll be in that phase, that inner wild woman. Which I used to be like, I used to think before I was connected to my cycles that I'm just emotional or crazy or erratic, because that's what you listen to, the outside noise of what people say, because I'm coming up to my periods. Whereas now, if I'm being a little bit, say, a bit more sensitive or a bit snappy, or a bit more intense energy going on, I know now that's just my inner wild woman coming out to show me where I have not honored my boundaries in my previous phases. And she's fierce, and she's is not worried about saying what's up. So I'm like, that's my inner wild woman coming out, and it's not because I'm crazy or because I'm moody and coming into my bleed. It's because I've maybe done too much, or I've not asked for enough help when it's been needed, and now I'm in a bit of overwhelm. So like what you've just said, you're preempting that you might be feeling that way, but just what you've done by asking for help is a huge thing, because often that's just all we need to do, just ask for that little bit of extra assistance and let people know that we are feeling that way. And it's so funny now with my husband, he knows what like seasons I'm in. Sometimes if I'm like busy and I haven't even realized myself, he's like, well, it's in the winter, isn't it? I'm cooking. I'm like, it is my inner winter, yeah.
I love that. That's awesome. I love that you like he reminds you, and he's like taking that on, taking like stepping up into that responsibility, you know, where he can. And he's like, you know, it's my time to be the cook for you. Like, I love that. Instead of it being like a, please, can you, like, you know, you having to explain it and you having to explain what you need and like trying to find a way of persuading him to do it for you. I love that. You know, it sounds like you're at that place where he's cycle aware and he's really happy to hold that space for you at that time. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. And that's only come because I'm actually willing to have them conversations. Like, that's not something he's going to pick up a book and read about. And he grew up with a wonderful mum, but she never ever spoke about her periods. And he grew up with a sister who never spoke about hers. So he doesn't know. It's like, you know, not purposely ignorant to it, but like I say, it's not going to be something he goes out and educates himself on. So it's been because I've been willing to have them conversations and say, look, this is what, and it's only been since I've really been connecting to myself and connecting to my cycle. So the past couple of years where then I've been like, oh my God, do you know this? And I'll say like, and I'm learning this and this means this. And I'm explaining to him, okay, this is, I need more support here. And or if we're planning events or whatever, I'm like, okay, let's plan it around maybe when I'm in that spring, that summer. So he's just getting that like side education as I'm like speaking about these things, which is really important. And it's also better for him because he's got more understanding of me, and we've got 2 daughters and now a big, huge understanding of them. And I remember I used to be like, oh, it's so easy for you as a man. Like, oh, you know, you don't have periods and all this other stuff. Whereas now I'm like, I love being a woman. I love cycling. And he's the one who's like, why don't I get an inner winter where you all look after me?
Yeah.
I'm like, we look after you anyway. Come on.
Yeah, that's right. And it's really cool because I really noticed, so the last few days, when I was ovulating and I had this real energy, and my husband Phil, he was like, oh, I'm so tired. Can you just take the girls to the swimming lessons? And you know, like that means 3 kids in the pool and I go in with them as well. And you know, if you want to just take them out for a bit afterwards and go do these errands, like that would be so good. Like if you could please just give me a bit of space. And I was like, yeah, I've got the energy to do that. I like sat there and checked in with myself and was like, I can do that. I've got the energy. I feel willing to do that. You know, like, yeah, I can totally take one for the team for you today. And it was easy because I had that summer energy. Whereas, you know, he's getting really good at helping me like in the reverse when I'm bleeding and when I'm feeling very wintry, and also late autumn for me. Like when I get like desperate for space. I'm like, just give me some space and peace and quiet for the love of God. And he's really good at knowing like when to just clear the house out and just give me like breathing space. So he said to me before, like, when's my winter? Like, when's my, like, you know, when do I get that chance? I'm like, I hear you, you know. It's really funny, isn't it, how the tables turn and now they're wishing they had a cycle. But yeah, I was really happy to be able to give that back to him and be like, you do it for me then and I do it for you that, like at this opposite time. And you know, it works. Like we can cycle like opposites, like, you know, on opposite poles. Like it's my summer solstice and his winter solstice or whatever, you know, just for example, like my summer and his winter. And yeah, it just felt cool, like a good way of sharing the workload, I guess, and holding the space and, you know, managing like our collective energy as well. Yeah, it was really good. So I enjoyed that. And it's cool to hear about how you're doing it in your relationship.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, for us, it's Colin like really finds his peace when he goes out and in amongst nature. So he likes to like do mountain biking and like that kind of stuff. So he'll often he's broke his hand now like doing that exact thing. So he's not at the minute, but he usually a couple of nights a week will go and hit a mountain bike track, and then he's happy to be there supporting me with whatever support I need because he's had that what he needs. So it's definitely about the balance for sure. I love that.
Amazing. Oh, well, Alisha, I'm just so happy to have you on the podcast today. I've been really looking forward to this chat, and we've had to reschedule a couple of times because of all kinds of things. But we met over the last year doing our integrative pelvic health facilitator training together, which was brilliant. And I loved meeting you there. And then it was such a thrill for me when you came and joined our First Moon Circle facilitator training too. So we've been journeying together for a good few months this year. This is the end of 2021 time of recording, and yeah, we're wrapping up that journey tonight in our closing ceremony. And yeah, it's been so brilliant to get to know more about you and your beautiful work. And I just love, I've introduced you in the introduction, but I'd love to just invite you to share a bit more about what it is you do and how, like, your journey, like how you got to this point of doing the work that you do. And like I was just saying, you've done these 2 trainings this year, and I know you've done, other things before, but I just love to hear like what brought you to this point, if you're happy to share your story.
Okay, yeah, definitely. It's a bit of a long one.
Yeah, that's okay.
So I like to call myself a Yoni Priestess, or a ceremonial priestess. And the path of the priestess is like that devotion of being service to other women. It's honoring their inner goddess and holding space for other women to honor theirs. It's
Beautiful.
living in flow with my natural cycles and being connected to the earth. And yeah, just really facing my shadows so that I can be a light so that others can find theirs, basically. So that's my little, well, I like to call myself priestess because that's my little priestess path. But I specialize in wellbeing coaching for women, and I've done red tent and rite of passage facilitating, and I'm currently diving into the realms of embodiment and tantra with a big focus on womb healing and all things pelvic health. And like you said, I'm a student of yours, and we have our closing ceremony this evening, which I'm so excited for because the course has just been so profound. Like, I've loved it. But yeah, my journey to all of that really began. So I grew up in Liverpool in the UK. Don't know if you can tell by my accent.
That's a beautiful accent.
For the most part, I grew up like a really happy child with a lot of love in my family and things. But inside, I grew up with like low self-esteem. But to have known me, you wouldn't have necessarily seen that, because on the outside, I was bubbly. But on the inside, I was really, really insecure about how my body looked. As I was growing up, that was like a big thing for me. Going through puberty, there was no rite of passage ceremony to celebrate that becoming a woman, that menarche. There was no education that really spoke of things energetically, emotionally, and spiritually. It was more that, like, in school, that basic science, like half a day, not even, I think it was like an hour.
Yeah, sounds right.
This is, this is the womb, this is this, but not really. So all I knew was, okay, you have a period. Didn't really know much about ovulation or anything until I was trying to conceive much later on in life. So I didn't really know that there was this whole cycle and there was different phases of it. So then when I went through puberty, there was all these changes, not just energetically, spiritually, and physically. Physically was a big one for me, actually, because what I felt like all of a sudden was I went from this small child like to what felt like overnight I grew like in my chest, my hips, my bum. But yeah, my skin wasn't the forgiving type. So I remember being covered in like these purple stretch marks on my thighs, on my bum. So I was always trying to hide my body from my friends. And, that was back in the era when it was the fashion to look more like Kate Moss and Paris Hilton, which are beautiful, no denying that. But when you aren't resembling that, and everyone around you seems to be, it, you know, that's a lot of where the insecurities and the body shame, I guess, began. And then my mom, as beautiful and amazing as she is, always, she grew up in that diet culture, so it was always like Weight Watchers here or Slim Shakes did, and so I grew up seeing that. So it was that constant, you know, looking at my own body, comparing it to other people, but then also growing up seeing like that it's this diet culture and everyone needs to be thin and blah blah blah. Yeah, so I grew up with a lot of insecurities. I went through phases as a teen, like making myself sick, like not trying not to eat, trying just to eat on. At one point I was eating just cabbage and things, you know. They would only have a small phases. I understand people go really deep into that and have a lot of other problems. For me, they were quite fickle, but still they were there, and it could have turned out a different way. And then, yeah, when I was 18, then I became a single mum to a beautiful baby girl. And so then I had like the postpartum body, which then only added fuel to that body shame and them insecurities. And I was like desperate to prove myself, prove I hadn't ruined my life, which, because I was young with a baby, then many people would be like, oh, that's it, you ruined your life, you know? So desperate to prove I hadn't ruined my life and ruined my body. I became obsessed with proving myself, proving I could be a good mom, I could still be successful, proving I could still be desired, because we're conditioned to believe we must always be desired as women. So it was just this snowball effect of, it was just very like just shallow of appearance, you know, what I appeared like to everyone else. That was like the main focus that I remember that journeyed through most of my 20s. So by 20, I'd had breast surgery because after having a baby, I was like really insecure. By 21, I was doing things like lip fillers, Botox. I was even doing tanning injections to change the color of my skin. Like, it was just like one thing after another, never feeling happy, always feeling unworthy, always trying to prove myself and thinking that proving myself was based on how I looked and how I appeared. So yeah, that basically just carried on throughout my 20s. But the real tipping point came when I think my daughter was about 10 years old at the time. And I just remember a conversation where she said to me she felt ugly or she felt fat. And I just remember being absolutely like, what? Like, you are this tiny child. Don't be so ridiculous. And I was like, oh my God, this is my fault. Like, this is because of me, not because I haven't told her she's beautiful, because I did all the time, but because she's watched how I've hated myself for so long, how I've been changing how I want to look. So yeah, it was just like this, oh my God, this moment, like, wow, I'm repeating, like, she's going to repeat, you know, and it's just going to be this generational, intergenerational trauma passed on and passed on. So yeah, it was naive of me to think that she was going to be any different if I was going to keep repeating these patterns. And, you know, we live in this society that is just so obsessed with staying young and being successful and appearing to have everything together, being productive, looking after yourself, looking after your family, still being sexy, but, you know, not too sexy, because, it can't be too sexy, especially when you're a mum. No, you can't be too sexy then, you know?
Yeah, back in your box.
Yeah, so it's just all of this unattainable expectations that are just pushed on us, and I could see that they've been pushed on me, and I was like, no, I cannot push this now onto my children and just keep it going. So yeah, I guess then I was just faced with this decision of, okay, what can I do? yeah, so then I went on this really big journey of self-discovery then. I was like, this needs to stop. And I think that was like the catalyst point. I can't remember exactly what it was that was the first thing then I went into to do it. You know, I think one of the biggest things on my journey was I got the book, The Power of, oh no, it wasn't The Power of Now, although a very good book, that one. It was, I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. Anyway, I got a book that was a spiritual book, and it was all about manifestation, about like what you ask, believe, receive, all this stuff. And I was just like slowly manifesting little things, you know, putting like things out there, and then they were happening just by me having these positive thoughts and then living on that like higher vibration. So it started with little things like that, but then I was like, okay, I'm onto something here. So having that the identity that I'd built for myself of like all of being someone who I wasn't, basically just started to feel less and less authentic to me. So then I was slowly peeling back the layers of all of this identity by reading more self-development books, by connecting more to myself, but I still couldn't really, I still felt that disconnection. And then it wasn't until I started feeling like, okay, maybe this disconnection could be because of the contraception I was on. So I guess the realization for that came, I'd been on a contraception for, it come up to 6 years, and I'd had no issues with it. I didn't have a period with it for that amount of time. And that to me was great, because I, at the time growing up, was my period was a burden. So it was like, yeah, I don't have a period. This is great. But during that time frame was the time when I felt so disconnected from myself. I was always trying to be somebody else. I was never happy with myself. I was going from job to job, trying to find what it is I felt like I was missing, but still couldn't figure anything out. And then on the 7th year of being on this contraception, I was bleeding nonstop. Well, like I'd bleed heavy for a few days, then none, then again, or I was like lightly spotting. So it just felt like this constant like, bleeding going on throughout. So this happened for months. It's going back and forth to doctors, and they're like, oh, it'll settle. You'll be fine. So I wasn't really getting any answers. So then I was like, I need to take this into my own hands, like what's going on. So upon doing some then research, I then discovered that actually what I was discovering was that the contraception I was on can lead to low libido, feelings of depression, yes, the inconsistent bleeding. There was just lots of different things that I was going through, and I was like, oh my God, could this be it? Could this be why I'm feeling so disconnected to myself? So I was like, right, I'm just going to take it out. Like, so I went in, had it taken out, and yeah, it felt like all of a sudden, like these clouds had just been lifted, and I was just slowly feeling more like myself again. And yeah, I think that was the biggest moment where I was able to connect to myself. And that's when, within a few months after that, I left the job I was in. I was actually studying to be a nurse at the time. I left that and was like, I'm just going to study crystal healing. Everyone thought I'd lost the plot. But I was like, no, I found it. Like, this is where I'm being guided. So, you know, this is what I'm going to do. My life just completely changed then. And yeah, I then studied crystal healing after, and I was building that connection to myself, and I was, you know, becoming just way more connected. I wasn't as obsessed with how I looked, with how I was perceived on the outside. I was more connected to me on the inside, like, who am I? I had my values completely changed. And I then opened a crystal store. I was doing like crystal markets. And I quickly realized that the women that were coming to me like for crystals, I quickly realized that they needed more support than me just saying, oh yeah, this crystal will help with this. As amazing as crystals are, and they do have this energetic blueprint that does help with many things, you need to go a lot deeper than that with a lot of things basically that people had issues with. So just giving someone a crystal didn't feel authentic to me. I was like, I want to be able to support these women more. And that's when I then studied wellbeing coaching for women. And that just took me on a path of being able to guide women on how to integrate like the inner and outer feminine, which that was amazing. That was really amazing. So on the inner level, they were able to teach women the knowledge and skills to really seek a more holistic, like wholesome life. And on the outer, more physical level, guiding them how they can naturally balance their hormones and work with the natural rhythms. And that's when that really led me into that womb work, because it was the part of that course that I was like, oh, hang on a minute, I really like this. And that's when I began connecting more to myself through that and was like, this is the area I want to be. And then from that, I went onto integrative pelvic health, where I met you. And when I met you, and then really discovering the inner and outer workings of the cycles, the seasons, the archetypes. That's what we've been doing in the course I'm doing with you. Because when I met you in the integrative pelvic health, I was like, oh. So then I went on a little stalk. I was like, wow, this woman is amazing. And I loved what you did. So then I saw the first moon circles, and with me having a daughter who at the time we just done a beautiful at-home menarche ceremony, I was like, oh yes, this is what I've been looking for, because I wanted then to, be able to educate the next generation of girls and bleeding folk on how better they can look after themselves, educate them in their own body literacy, because the women that I've worked with and me myself have all said, I wish we knew this when we were younger. And now, so it makes sense to then start with that generation. So that's basically where I was led from: integrative women's wellbeing, crystal healing, basically women's wellbeing, then into integrative pelvic health. And I've been doing womb healing, yoni steaming, and now bringing that to the next generation, thanks to you. And that whole women's circles, which I think are really good at building that community and that sisterhood, by allowing us to have that space for women to hold each other and support each other, and realize that we're not always in competition. We don't have to compare ourselves to each other. We've all actually got a real likeness, and so similar in the things that we actually want in life, which all comes down to, love and compassion and healing and all of that. So I don't know, did that actually explain?
Alisha,
I mean, like I just spoke like an hour.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's so powerful to hear. And I just wanted to wrap you up in a huge hug and thank you for sharing so openly, your whole life path, how it's all brought you to this point, this place where you're at today. And I can see, so clearly, how those earlier experiences have really shaped your work, but your beautiful energy and desire to really give to the next generation, so that they can, you talked about teaching body literacy and cycle wisdom and things like that, and you really, what I'm really hearing is underneath it all is not growing up with that sense of shame for who we are and what our bodies look like, and who we are most naturally. We're all different, all our bodies are different, you know, like you said, there are likenesses, and, you know, our bodies generally work in the same kind of ways. And yet we all, you know, you touched on so many things in there about, you know, the pressure to be desirable, you know, at all ages, you know, and the pressure to, you know, to look a certain way and behave a certain way, especially after motherhood. And I can just imagine how difficult that must have been for you as a young mom, trying to, you know, prove that you know, you'd got your shit together and you were doing a, you know, a good job. And, you know, I think it's really, yeah, it's such a important part of your journey to have had your daughter at that age, because it's brought you to this place here now. And it's like, you know, without that experience and those challenges, you wouldn't be here with the with the wisdom that you hold, and probably doing this work. And, you know, I'm fascinated to hear that it was your contraception that was really like that poke, like, you need to listen here, and like something's not right. And it was when you had that removed, you said that you know, it was like a cloud that had lifted, and everything, you know, everything changed, like your mental health and your outlook and your realization of who you were and what mattered to you. Like, that sounds like it was such a huge turning point. And it's amazing that a contraceptive, which, you know, were created to empower women in a sense, but, you know, have also got you know, huge drawbacks that we don't even realize are there, that are actually having an impact. And, you know, for a lot of people, you know, you might be listening thinking that your contraceptive works for you, and that's brilliant. But, you know, it's amazing that after 7 years as well, it took that long for you to for there to be that change. It was after 7 years that your cycles changed, and you started with that spotting and that bleeding. You said heavy bleeding.
The womb was like, excuse me, woman.
Yeah.
No more.
Yeah. So, you know, I just thank you for sharing. I really appreciate that. And I took so much out of it. And yeah, I loved hearing that you held, you know, a menarche circle for your daughter earlier this year. Tell us about that. Tell us what that looked like, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, basically because I was connecting to my cycles and connecting to my body, that was how I was able to build that really deep love, appreciation, and respect. So then I no longer was wanting to be someone else and change my body. That's not saying I don't still have my days. We still have our days where we don't feel great, but I had so much more respect and love for my body. And that was through knowing how powerful I was as a woman, and all these changes and different seasons that I go through. I felt empowered that I had them seasons to go through, you know, and what they offered me in each phase. So I really wanted to share that knowledge then with my daughter then when she started her menarche. So I mean, she just thought all the stuff I was studying, I'd feed little seeds to her here and there, and she'd just like roll her eyes at me and be like, "Oh my God, Mum, you're so weird." You know, that like preteen, like
it's embarrassing.
Yeah, you're so embarrassing. So then when she got her first bleed, I was like, please, can I do you a nice ceremony? And because I'd read, you know, I've read different books, and I read about these rites of passage, because this was before I actually began any of the training into it. I just intuitively really wanted to do that for her, because I was like, I wish I had that, and just explain to her the knowledge that I'd gathered so far. So anyway, she at first was like, oh, no, not really. And then I was like, please, I'll give you a head massage and we'll do a face mask as well. So it's kind of like that little bribe, which I know is terrible. But then she was like, oh, okay. So then I just done it like, so I've got an altar in my room with like my crystals and things on, and that's where I do a lot of my like ritual and self ceremony and stuff. So I just set up like my oracle cards there and like some candles, and I just set that up, and opened up the circle, like calling in like the elements and stuff, but kept it like not too out there for her. And then just explained to her like through what the different seasons meant, and now that like she was bleeding, that she then had passed like this threshold into a womanhood, and what that meant as like age appropriately as what that meant. And it was nice. Like I was just explaining a few things, like but already pre to this, like a couple of years before, when I knew that she was like building up to this, I gave her like books and stuff like that to read, so she'd already had like this foundation of things in there. It wasn't just like I was like, bang, here's like I'm telling you all this stuff. I'd been like planting seeds anyway. But yeah, we just had a nice ceremony where I done like a little womb blessing, and then we done some oracle cards, and we done some face masks. So it wasn't like anything really extravagant or too out there, but it was nice. And then after it, like she wanted to do more cards, and then she said she actually really enjoyed it. And then I think when one of her friends got hair bleed not long after, she came home and was telling me, I told my friend about the ceremony that we had, and she said, I wish your mum would do her witchy things with me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like, oh, you know,
I will.
I will, yeah. So I feel like this work is definitely needed. You know, if I'm going to work with women and mothers, it just feels natural for me to be able to offer that service to their daughters or whoever it is that needs this.
Beautiful, Alisha.
That's kind of what led me to that. You know, I just want my daughter to be able to love and respect her body and understand it more than what I was able to.
That's so powerful that you could offer that for her and find a way in that she felt like, you know, she wanted to be there, and that meant, you know, face masks, and that's beautiful. And head massage, I love that. And, you know, she obviously got so much out of it, and to tell her friend, and, you know, you're going to be holding your first moon circles in the new year, which is really exciting. So yeah, I'm just so like thrilled that you're, you know, part of our community, and you're going to be doing this work and taking it out there. And the other thing that I really wanted to ask you about is the other part of your business. You've just recently opened an online crystal toy shop, haven't you? So yes. You're very much into sacred sexuality and, you know, womb healing and you know, sexual healing, I guess, as well. And, you know, I guess that's, you know, hearing that you had done your crystal energy training, that makes sense to me, you know, where that would weave in, and it's like this beautiful intersection. And I would just love to hear a bit about why you feel these crystals, you know, can be so powerful for reclaiming sexuality, especially, you know, when somebody's got like a difficult relationship with their sexuality perhaps as well. And just to tell us a little bit about that and how it works, and perhaps, you know, some tips for somebody who's listening who wanted to explore that for themselves. Would that be okay?
Yeah, of course. So it was like a natural progression from me doing the crystal healing and having a crystal store. When I then went further into womb work and reclaiming my own sexuality and all of that, it just felt less aligned for me to have like this big volume of all like crystals. And I was just like, you know, I'm just going to make available what actually complements the work I do, so that the women in my community have access to this if they want it. It's there, you know, just a little extra offering for them. Because with a lot of the work I do talk about yoni de-armoring and stuff. So yeah, basically reclaiming my body and my sexuality has been so important to me, because I do have 2 daughters. And often, like I said, when we grow up, we mirror what we see. So I want them to grow up feeling empowered when they see that I am I'm able to speak of these things more naturally, and I'm empowered in my sexuality. I don't want them to go up feeling ashamed, because when we're feeling ashamed, that's often when we make disempowered choices in regards to the sexual activity that we may have. Also, we are less in tune with ourselves, less able to have these firm boundaries and not really know and honor what true consent is. So that's why it's been really important for me to reclaim my body and reclaim my sexuality for them. And when we talk about reclaiming sexuality, it often gets a really bad rep. Like, people think, you know, oh, what is that? Like, but like, the cruelest lie that we've ever been fed is that our sexual energy is too much, it's attention seeking, it's shameful, it's wrong, when in truth it plays a massive, huge role in our overall vitality and the overall health of our body. And, you know, when we channel our sexual energy, we're able to channel and access our creativity more, and vice versa. When we're channeling our creativity, our sexual energy is more big and expanded, and that really heightens and improves our overall well-being. It is our creative life force. You know, when our sexual energy is flowing, it is mirrored in our creativity. And sexual energy, it not just creates life itself, which it does, you know, stuff, but it channels our visions, our desires, it births our dreams into fruition. Because, like I said, when we are channeling that sexual energy, we're in creative flow. So then we're able to see what it is that we desire, see what it is that we want from life. And we have that energy and that life force going through us, that we're able to put the steps into action that need to be taken in order to birth these things out into the world. So it's not just important for pleasure, like self-pleasure and making families, but it's important for your life in general. It's a really important energy to have access to. And, you know, like I say to people that come onto my course, your sexual energy is yours. It doesn't belong to no one else. It doesn't belong to your parents. It doesn't belong to a religion. It doesn't belong to your partner, which a lot of people think like their sexual activity is only ever with their partner. But it doesn't belong to society either. It belongs to you and you only. And it's up to you how you channel that energy. It's not something that should be kept small and kept in a box. It's something that needs to be embodied, and that doesn't mean embodying your sexual energy. You walk around and you're wanting to have sex with everything. That's different, you know. It's just talking about the energy as a whole and what you can do with that energy, what you can create with that energy. It doesn't mean you're actively just having this like big sex life, which also there is nothing wrong with. But yeah, I talk about it as in how important it is just for your overall vitality. And there are many ways you can channel that energy, which, you know, through movement, through moving our hips, we're able to bring that energy just from our pelvic area. We're able to bring it around our whole body. Through touch. There's many ways. Making pleasure a priority. Yeah, self-pleasure is really important. You know, if you don't know the things that you enjoy and the things that you like, then how is someone else supposed to be able to pleasure you if you don't know where that erotic blueprint is in your own body? You know, you've got to know these things yourself. That's not, I mean, you can be having fine sex and intimacy with someone, but it's so surface level sometimes. There's just so much more available in that realm if you take the time to get to know yourself. And that's kind of the journey I'm on at the minute. I'm helping women do that. And we are in a society where a lot of women, a lot of people in general have grown up with trauma in that area. So with the crystals, I offer the Yoni wands and the Yoni eggs, so that people are able to release that trauma from the body. So somatically, so we can use the Yoni wands internally in our Yoni canal, so in the vaginal canal, just to give ourselves a really nice pressure point massage. And when we do that, we can, release any tension that might be in there, so that it softens that Yoni canal. And when that Yoni canal is more softened, it resensitizes the area. So then it heightens pleasure potential, it heightens that orgasmic energy, and also releasing any trauma. It releases the trauma that may be held there, which is stopping you from being able to be in full pleasure. So yeah, I've been on the journey of that, guiding women through that.
Special work.
Yeah, and I love it.
Yeah. And so that's been a really big part of your journey, I can tell, from like part of reclaiming your body and, your losing that shame, of your body as well, and what you're, you have the potential to feel and to be and to express, It's all tied in, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And we can do self pleasure is just such an important self-love practice, I find. So that is something I always encourage women to do. When we drop into that like sacred ceremony of pleasure with ourselves, we're able to release them feel good hormones, the serotonin, the dopamine in the body, which are released during pleasure, and they help us really relax and de-stress. And who doesn't want that?
Exactly, right. And as well, I feel like it it also increases our capacity to just feel pleasure in the everyday,
Exactly.
And instead of I think I feel like life's changing quite a lot for a lot of people, but there's been times in my life as well where I felt like you're just going on the hamster wheel, you're just going through your day to day, and it's just about getting through, and each day kind of feels the same. And when I really think about it, I was also on hormonal contraceptives at that time, but and coming off that for me was definitely part of me kind of feeling things that I'd never felt in my body before. But like the more I cultivate pleasure in my life and in my body, and it can be separate, it can be the same as sexuality, but it can also be very very different, and more about sensuality and just like the senses and feeling and noticing and really cultivating pleasure in your day to day. I feel like they obviously go hand in hand. It's like growing that capacity to receive, growing that capacity to feel safe in inhabiting our bodies, and as well as increasing that incredible connection to ourselves, on that deepest level, not just our body and our sexual energy, but who we are, and taking up that space instead of feeling like you said, we're too much and that's something else to be ashamed about.
Yeah, definitely not. Like, you are not too much. We are here to take up space. Like, the medicine that each one of us has, it's going to touch someone else, and it's going to ignite something in them. And that's a beautiful thing. If your medicine is just for one person, well, then their medicine is then for someone else and someone else. And, it can be passed down for generations. So don't ever think you are too much, or what you share is going to be too much. One of the most powerful things you can do is to be you. And that's amazing. And like, back to what you said about being in your pleasure, During orgasm, when you release the hormones, prolactin, oxytocin, they have many benefits such as better sleep quality, reduced feelings of anxiety, lower cholesterol, releasing the oxytocin and all of that. So then that has a knock-on effect throughout the rest of your life. You're then living in your pleasure because overall you're genuinely feeling better. So you do then fall into that pattern of living life more sensually, or more receptive to what's around you, to nature, to the beauty of a flower, and how your food tastes, the people around you. Like, I just feel so much more present, and just more present with people, more present with life, more connected. And I'm
more
not
magnetic as well.
I'm allowing myself to have orgasms. It's basically the whole edge of reclaiming my cycles, once I started reclaiming my cycle, that was the next thing, because ovulation, it's that sexual energy. And it was then, okay, now I'm in this area of reclaiming this part of myself, and that's just as important. And since doing that, I just feel more confident and more able to make the shifts necessary to be a better mom, a better friend, a better person in general.
I love it. I really feel like you're a lineage healer. I was going to say breaker, but I feel like more of a healer, in that sense of, like you said, you kind of replicate, what you saw in your own lineage from your own mother, and you having seen what you saw from your mum, and then noticing what you're passing on, and really becoming mindful of what your legacy is, and so clearly that we do, like you said, we do transmit this energy, this frequency, this, even if you're saying one thing of like, love your body, you're beautiful, it's like what we do and how we, our children pick up on our energy, as all people do. And I really love that you're really here to break that intergenerational pattern, and through reclaiming your body and your sexuality. And it's just so powerful. And I know that you're really passionate at some point about sharing this kind of wisdom, this sacred sexuality wisdom with teens as well, aren't you? And then I know it's something that you've not you're not quite ready yet to start, but it's very much something that you're passionate about.
So I've just been planting little seeds for now. But I think with doing the first moon cycles, and with teaching young girls how to have that better body literacy with their cycle, and journey through the spiritual and the physical aspects of it, which is absolutely beautiful. But also keeping it like age appropriate. So it is for 9 to 12-year-olds, so not diving too much into the realms of, sex and sexuality. But that is still definitely a very important conversation to be having with young people, because, a lot of the, that's first when you get into your teens is when that energy is first coming about, and you don't really know how to control it, or what really to do. And a lot of times, when I grew up, like, self-pleasure was like this big taboo, and like you wouldn't be talking to your friends like about it. So if you did it, which I did, it wasn't something I spoke about. I was like, ashamed and stuff like that. I used to think like, oh, is what I'm doing like allowed? And so then I kind of grown up thinking like I was only able to receive this pleasure from other people, and then making like not very good decisions, disempowered choices, and experiencing that like inner conflict and shame. And so that's why I just feel like, although it's a very taboo topic in general, with that teen age group, yes, 16 is the legal age they're supposed to do any of this stuff, but we just know that that is not what happens. You know, a lot of people do get involved in these activities before then. So I think really educating them better than the school education, which is this does this, and, you know, more educating them on that like self-sovereignty, that self-love, and how when they share that sexual energy with another person, then you have energetic cords to that person, and if they were a very nice person, then you might still hold some of their energy within you. And, you know, now I'll do things like cord cutting rituals and stuff with women to cut like past relationships or past traumas and things like that. So I think it's important to, if you get to them younger, and explain the importance of all this stuff and just armor them with the tools and the education, so that they can make their choices with discernment, and also feel empowered in their decisions, but also letting them know that they have people to talk to if they have made decisions that, say, they thought weren't the right ones or whatever. Then they've got people to lean on for support, and they don't have to keep that to themselves and be shamed because legally they're not supposed to be doing this stuff, you know. So yeah, I've been looking into maybe doing a circle in regards to that for, initially I was thinking like that 13 to say 15 barrier, but making it more of the age group, making it more of like a self-love, and how knowing your own body first is the most important thing before sharing that body with someone else. Not really talking about this is sex and this is pleasure and this is what will get you from A to B, more of a self-sovereignty of this is you getting to know your own body. And then maybe a circle from, say, 16 to 19 that may then go more into the realms of pleasure, but with the with a different take on it. As at the minute, there's still all seeds, to be honest.
I love it. I love it,
I know that there is definitely medicine to be shared, because this is stuff that I wish at them ages I was equipped with. So yeah.
I think it's so important, and I know there's people who really want to do this work too, but just don't know how to do it and how to speak it. And, you know, a lot of fears about parents, you know, thinking that this is too much and it's not appropriate, and, you know, not wanting their children to hear about sex. But like you've said, you know, it's not the mechanics of sex, and it's not about necessarily even, you know, safety. Because I think when we just talk about it as like, you know, you need to be safe, you know, and don't let things happen to you, know, don't be taken advantage of, or, you know, that's projecting your own fears and your own experiences onto your child. And, you know, while they're valid concerns, I think we have to, like you say, empower them with knowledge. And I just think that wisdom about, you know, learning your body, experimenting, connecting, deeply honoring your body teaches you to respect your body and to love your body, and to understand that, you know, it's something that you can, you know, keep all to yourself, or, you know, you can't, like you said, you can choose to share that, but to be really choosy about who and how you share that, and not from purity culture of not until you're married, but from, like you said, you know, what does that person respect me? What's their energy like? Do they, you know, what's their intention behind all of this? And I just think, you know, I think that's brilliant. If we could teach that to, you know, 13, 14, 15-year-olds, like you said, I think that, you know, that's massive. The implication of that could be, you know, phenomenal on a cultural level of, you know, empowering, you know, girls and the, you know, young people and the next generation of women coming through about knowing their worth and feeling able to fully inhabit their whole selves, and having incredible boundaries, you know, instead of just, like you said, you were taught that pleasure is something that you receive, you know, it's also, you're taught that pleasure is something that you have to give, you know, give away as well. And there's so much in there. So I'm really excited to watch that little seed be nurtured and watered and tended, and, you know, when the time is right for that little shoot to grow, and to see what you're doing with it, Alisha, because I think like I say, I think it's so important, and I know there's people who would love to hear, like, follow along and see how you're doing it. So yeah, amazing work, and I can't wait to see what comes.
I think because it's such a taboo like subject, a lot of, I know from being young, you grew up figuring out these things from porn. And that is just such a unrealistic view of what an actual, you know, sex and all of that is about. So also educating young ones on the fact that, okay, that's not real. It's important for boys just as well. Like, you know, it's not this big performance, and it's, you know,
totally.
Sometimes often in terms of porn, it's often like a situation where the woman's always being like this, like dominated and all of this stuff. And, you know, so then that teaches young girls that what they should be so submissive. So then they won't stick up for themselves, and they'll let their boundaries be crossed. And that's one of the things that I definitely do want to be able to, because obviously I've got a daughter who's 13. So educating them on the fact that this is not real. You are allowed to say no, you're allowed to not do that if you don't want to, you know, just from that aspect as well. I think it's super, super important.
Thank you so much, Alisha. And so as we wrap up, if people want to find you and follow along or have a little nosy at your crystal shop, where can people find you?
So I'm more often than not on Instagram. That's where I'm mostly active. My Instagram is at Alisha Faye __. Alisha spelled ALISHA. And my website is sacredsync.com. I am also part of a multi-author book that just was released.
Congratulations.
Thank you. That hit a bestseller on Amazon, which is absolutely amazing. That's called Divine Union. That's just me, a co-author with 11 other authors talking about their journey. That's where you can get me. My Instagram for my crystal shop is at Sacred Sync.
Sacred Sync. Beautiful. Yeah, thank you. So I recommend, if any of this has really landed with you, go and follow Alisha, go see what she's up to. She shares really beautifully, and you really inspire me with what you put as well. And I have to admit, sometimes like what you share, I kind of like feel this like response in my body of like, oh, did she do that? And I'm like, yes, I did. And it's like really healing for me to feel that and go like, you know, there's like this child Charlotte going, oh, you know, like, can we talk about these taboo things? And you really take it to those edges and like expand those edges with love and with grace and with like real sovereignty and strength to call people into their awareness and their reclaiming these parts of themselves. So I just love what you're doing and how you share, and it's just such an honor to have you in our First Moon fam as well. Thank you for being with us and for sharing, you know, so generously your journey and your wisdom, and just so much love. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening in. If you're loving this podcast and you'd love to help me spread the wisdom shared, please leave a review or rating, or share this with somebody who you think would love to listen in. I'm really passionate about creating ripples of change and getting this information to more women, girls, and people with a cycle so that they can reclaim their cyclic natures too. And if you'd love to dive in deeper with learning more about how to connect with your cycle and rites of passages, come and join our free Wild Flow Circle community, or choose a course and learn with me on my online learning hub. All the links are in the show notes. And until next time, be well and go with the flow of your cyclic nature.